Hello, I'm Greg Retke Mods, and welcome to episode 21 of Season 2 of my PowerPC series, the season finale of Season 2. Now, in today's episode, I'll be introducing you to a very special Mac. This Mac indirectly started the channel back up. If it hadn't been for this Mac, the channel probably would not have started back up, and this channel would still have maybe 100 subscribers, maybe a few more, maybe a few less, and it would still only have 3 episodes from, 3 videos from 6 years ago on it. This Mac basically is the underlying thing that caused the channel to start back up. And what do I mean by that? Well, first, let's show you what it is. Now, you've seen this in my other videos, but first time I've actually, talked about it. And this system is very special. This is an iMac G4 Headless, and the backstory on it we're going to go into. Now, this is a very special computer, very interesting looking, as you can tell, but if it hadn't been for this system, the channel wouldn't have started back up. When the channel started back up, of course, I started with the Mac Pro series. Well, I wouldn't even have been a Mac guy if it hadn't been for this system. Back in college, I graduated in 2015, and I want to say it was in early 2014. I'd always admired the designs of former Macs, okay? But I've always been a PC guy, even though the very first PC I ever used was a Macintosh Plus, like you can see in this video up here, where I unboxed my new one. But that was the only Apple product I'd ever used other than iPods and iPhones. Okay, I always admired the newer Macs. Always thought, man, those would make great PCs. All that sacrilegious stuff. I would, I guess, consider myself more of a Mac person now than a PC guy. But let's say about 2014. I decided I wanted to make an iMac lamp. And of course you make those out of iMac G4s. And the first victim was a 1.25, which I still regret destroying, looking back at it. But I made my lamp. And my lamp wasn't wired properly. And it kept grounding itself out to the metal frame. So every time you'd touch it, you'd electrocute yourself. It was very painful, and I'm surprised I hadn't killed myself with the darn thing. But it had problems where it wouldn't stand up correctly, and it had problems where it would fall over by itself because it just wasn't sturdy enough. Now, in early 2015, the semester before I graduated, I decided, we had an art project that required us to turn something into something else, like turn a computer into a piece of furniture, repurpose something. So I decided it'd be a great time to try my lamp again. I still had all the parts laying around, including all the working Mac parts out of that broken system. Now keep in mind, this system was broken, and at the time I figured it wasn't rebuildable. Looking back, it was sorta, but I was still a PC guy. Well, the parts that I had used before just weren't working right, and the project required you to start from scratch. So I bought another iMac G4, which was also broken, and half of that system's this board. Okay, it was a 1 gigahertz early 2003 iMac G4, this system right here. And that system, its parts combined with the other iMac's parts made my lamp, which is now my bedroom lamp. And it had built-in USB chargers, built-in FireWire chargers, and a built-in auxiliary speaker made out of Mac parts. And an iPad chargers, 3 of those, and 2 old-fashioned FireWire iPod chargers. Okay, all the parts were basically Apple parts, and it was all basically from that system. Well, I still had a pile of broken Mac parts laying around. And I thought to myself, well, why not? Let's build something out of them. And I figured out that the main board still worked on this, the power supply still worked on this. I could build something. Now both of those systems had dead hard drives, which I'd already chucked. So I special ordered a hard drive from a seller on eBay. This is the same guy that actually I bought my nylon screws from for the 32-bit CPU Mac series. Same guy. He stopped selling pre-installed hard drives and started selling those. And he, from what I've heard, still makes about the same amount of money just by selling the nylon screws. But anyway, he made this hard drive for me, then sent it to me. I think it's a 250 gigabyte. I can't quite remember. 230, something like that. We'll look at it when we go over the computer. But anyway, I decided I'd make a working computer. Both of those systems had broken LCDs, you know, so that wasn't an option. Plus, I'd already used the LCD symbols for both of them to finally make a working lamp, okay? But I decided to piece this thing together and make it as functional as possible. And with the help of a mini VGA adapter to VGA and a monitor, I made a working Mac. And I started playing around this system and started really liking it. So, like I always want to do at the season finale of every season of this series, I want to do a special Mac. Last season it was my fully functional MDD, which broke before I finished uploading everything, if I remember correctly. Yeah. This season it's just the Mac that started it all. Okay. I started really liking this. I'd always had this goal, even as a kid, to play my favorite childhood games. Humongous entertainment games. You know, putt-putt, all that stuff. Play my favorite childhood games on a Mac. And even when I was a kid, I wanted to try it on the Macintosh Plus. Now I know that would have never worked. But that Macintosh Plus was also broken at the time. And, well, I'm not going into that. But anyway, I wanted to play these games. But I found out they needed classic support because they were OS 9 games. Well, I also found out that classic support didn't work with most of those games. So I started going into OS 9, looking up and stuff. I custom installed an install of Tiger on here. He had installed Leopard. But, you know, I found out it just wouldn't work, and I found out the system didn't support OS 9. Anyway, well, I'd played with this enough where when I graduated, my girlfriend's grandmother gave me just enough money to buy my first MacBook, which was a white early 2009 MacBook, and I upgraded that thing to the 9s, and I still have it sitting behind me on one of these towers, okay? But this system, I would have never bought another Mac if it hadn't been for this system. And this system, you know, helped influence me, okay? When I decided to start the channel back up in early 2016, I'd always wanted a Mac Pro, or an aluminum tower anyway. And I bought an aluminum tower. And it was the Mac Pro 1,1, which I showed how to upgrade it and make it run El Capitan and make it perform like a modern day Mac. Well, if it hadn't been for this system, I never would have. Okay? So this system's very special. This system started it all back up. And as I kept on going on, I decided to buy a G5. That was the late 2005 one that's been in multiple videos, episode 5 of season 1, and the CPU upgrade and all that stuff from this season. You know, it was really cool. I thought you could run OS 9 on that. No, of course not. You can't. G5s were never supported OS 9. So I decided to buy a Mac Mini G4. And that, of course, couldn't support OS 9 at the time. Now there's a hack out where you can do it. But at the time you couldn't. So I was trying to find the, you know, most compatible OS 9 system that was small enough to fit in the limited space I had. Well, I have a lot less space now because of this obsession. I decided to buy my PowerBook G4 Titanium just to run OS 9, and I finally got to run my childhood games on a Mac, which was really cool. But, you know, I got the bug, the collecting bug. and decided to start up the PowerPC series to show you guys what you can do with these systems in today's world. And all of these computers I consider modern Macs. All of them. Any Mac powered by G3 or higher, I consider a modern Mac, because with the right software and the right upgrades, you can still use the modern day web on it. And in my opinion, that makes it a modern day Mac. And all of this would have never happened, all of it, probably anyway, if it hadn't been for me deciding to take the leftover parts from that lamp and make a semi-functional Mac. This right here. Okay? So even though it's really beat up and in rough shape, it works. And I'll explain to you everything that's funky with this system when we get into it. But this is a very special system to me. And, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And hopefully you enjoyed the backstory and it didn't bore you to tears. But this system's very special. And, well, let's get into it. Okay, so as I've told you in the past, this system was sitting at my dad's house for a long time, and I just got it back from him a few months ago. So this sat at his house from around mid-2015 to early 2018, and it just sat there. I never had time to go down and get it. He lives 3 hours away, and I think that helped fuel this obsession of buying all this, as we can see here. And there's even more over there, you know. If it had already been here, I might have bought less. So, yeah. Anyway, so here's the system. And this system, about, I say 40% of this ended up in my lamp. Maybe 30%. The rest of this specific system is the second system I bought. Now, this system was a school computer. And I could tell that because it had a bunch of Sharpie marker on the back of it saying what computer model it was, which assignment number it was in a computer lab probably. And it was really weird because this system, I'll show you if I can turn it over with one hand. This system was fully spec'd out. This is the top of the line iMac G4 from early 2003. It had a 1 gigahertz CPU, 1 full gig of RAM, and an 80 gig hard drive with AirPort and Bluetooth. It came with Bluetooth. This was the top of the line model you could buy in early 2003. And it ended up in a school. Really weird. Now this system, try to turn it back over. This system, it came with the super drive and everything in it, but as I was rebuilding it, I figured out that the super drive that was in it couldn't read dual layer discs, which was a problem at the time, and I didn't know that all DVD drives from that time period couldn't read dual layer discs, so it was a common thing. Well, I had a optical drive, a dual layer burner from a 2004 Gateway. I had a lot of those back in 2004, and I still had them laying around. I still have 2004 Gateways laying around, but it gave up its optical drive for this system. And thankfully, Tiger and Leopard both support non-Apple drives. Even though Tiger technically says it doesn't, it still supports burning. Plus, there's a patch for it if it doesn't want to burn. But thankfully, it works. So I have an optical drive. And this optical drive door, as you notice, is missing. And I decided not to put it back in because I never could get it to go back together properly. And this system was rebuilt with tons of screws that were never put in order or anything, so I didn't know what screws went where. So I ended up putting screws that were too long for here. As you can see, they stick out. It's not a big deal. It holds together. And the drive still works. Now, as we continue going around it, here's a cap. This goes to the base of the arm. And it keeps it from grounding itself to the metal piece down in here. And it helps everything. You'd have to see the insides of an arm to understand how that works. If we look up close, we can see there is a lot of issues with the finish. And it is very dirty looking. And I don't want to slide this around on the antennas. I'll tell you how these antennas ended up on here in a second. But, you know, it looks bad. But that doesn't hurt the functionality of this system. Now, this system, if you've noticed, has antennas coming out the bottom, as we see down here. Okay. This system, like I said originally, came with Bluetooth and all that stuff. I took that system apart to build the world's fastest iMac G4. As we know, that's still a failure. But that sacrificed the power supply and the Bluetooth for that build. Now I've swapped power supplies. This is the old power supply that was in the world's fastest iMac G4, and it seems to work. I don't know why it didn't work in the other system. It works fine. But let's get on with why there's these antennas here. Well, the early iMac G4s, according to Steve Jobs, I haven't actually investigated into it, their Wi-Fi antennas were actually in the LCDs. I don't know if that's true, but I guess it is, okay? Well, the early 2003 and on models had the Wi-Fi antenna built into the metal casing of the insides. Well, the Wi-Fi antenna has this problem that if you're clipping it back together, if you're not careful, you can pinch the Wi-Fi antenna. And I did that back in 2015. And the Wi-Fi antenna signal still worked, sorta, but not super great. And when I took this system back apart to rebuild it, that Wi-Fi antenna finally snapped, I guess, when I was putting it back together, and it just stopped working altogether. Now, instead of taking the whole system apart again, I decided to use these two antennas. These are from a iBook G3 clamshell. Yeah, okay. And these actually came with a G5 upgrade kit for my G5 here. When I was doing the antenna updates, these were supposed to be the antennas for it. I didn't use those. I used them from a Airport Extreme, which worked a lot better. As you can see in here, you can see the antenna just barely. It looks almost like factory. It's really neat. But I had these laying around for over a year with nothing to do with them. And when the signal finally stopped working in this, I decided, what the heck? Let's just feed them through the bottom. And it worked. It works. I get good signal now. This system also sacrificed its Harman Kardon based internal speaker for my lamp. In fact, both speakers from those two systems ended up in that lamp to make a stereo auxiliary speaker setup. So this system didn't have an internal speaker. When I was back in here to redo everything, I put a Mac Mini 1,1, the Intel model. I put one of their speakers in it. It's an awful, terrible speaker, but it works. I hand soldered it into the connector, and it works. And I'll demonstrate that to you later. But now the system, it just has a 230 gig hard drive. I think it's 230. It might be a 320. We'll see when we look it up. But anyway, it's got that. It's still got the original modem, gigabit. I mean, not even. This is a 10100 Ethernet, Pro speaker port, audio out. I used to use a set of Walmart speakers for this back when I first set it up, and then it's got audio in. Then we've got the power port, 2 FireWire 400, 2 USB 1.1s, and the mini VGA jack, which needs one of these, And that's how we get our monitor. So I always have this plugged in no matter what, so I can just plug this into whatever. So that's basically the outside of the system. So now we're going to hook the system up, and I'll go over what it was like before everything was set up the way it is now. So 1 second while I set everything up. Okay, so here's the current setup as we can see right here. And real quick, a backstory on the original setup I had when I was in college. I had a wireless PC mouse, 2-button of course, scroll wheel, etc., that went to my laptop. Then I had a black Windows keyboard from Radio Shack, really cheap, crappy USB keyboard that I ended up, I still have, it's sitting up there in a pile, but I of course use a Mac keyboard now. But that was a pretty good keyboard. It taught me how to use Mac commands and controls on a Windows keyboard, which came in handy in the future. Then it also had USB, well, they weren't USB, they were Walmart special, really cheap PC speakers. They were black, you know, they weren't great. I ended up giving those to my future in-laws for their headless laptop. Long story about that. I helped set them up with that after the screen broke and stuff. Anyway, getting back to the point, those speakers ended up with them. The monitor that I originally had hooked up to this came from my dad's old office. It's also theirs now, but this monitor I've had since new. Well, it's been in the family since new, and now the CFL is going out in it a little bit, so it's going to flicker some in the video. But I believe this is a 16 by 10 aspect ratio, so it's a Mac aspect ratio, so it will look authentic. But anyway, so now we've got pro speakers, a pro keyboard, and a pro mouse hooked up into this system. And as we can see here, we have a red Allen key sticking out of one of the antennas. I figured out when I rebuilt this a week or two ago that the left antenna is the one where the signal is the strongest, and the right antenna doesn't seem to really work at all. In fact, if you stick an Allen key in that antenna, the signal will drop through the floor. But if you stick an Allen key in this antenna, it doubles the signal. Really weird. But yes, it's a weird setup, but it works. And I'll get a very strong, basically full airport signal, which is going to be really cool. So anyway, when we boot this up, we'll boot it into Leopard. And we'll first boot it into Leopard, show you everything that it was set up like in college. Then I'll boot it into Tiger and show you how I had that running in college and show you some games and stuff for the heck of it. And then we'll boot it into one more operating system. And I was going to save this for a surprise, but I might as well just tell you guys straight out. This is my early 2003 17-inch PowerBook G4. This is going to be the topic of one of the episodes coming up in Season 3. This system is the ultimate mobile OS 9 gaming machine, but it's an early 2003. This is an early 2003. Neither one of these support OS 9 officially. I'm going to be running OS 9 on here at the end of the video. And we'll be running it off of the target disk mode on this system because I don't have a partition of it on here. There was a hack out for it when I first had it, but I didn't want to wipe the hard drive to do it. And now I could, but I think I'll just leave it the way it is. And so right now we'll just run it off here, and I'll show you it does work. It doesn't work great, and it's going to need some more hacking, but almost all, if not all, early 2003 G4 Macs didn't, none of them supported OS 9 officially, but they had OS 9 supported hardware. Really interesting stuff. And so the only thing that this didn't work with was, for instance, the Bluetooth module. That wasn't compatible. Bluetooth wasn't in OS 9. There was someone trying to make a Bluetooth stack for OS 9, but they gave up on that project. I hope someone picks that back up. That was interesting. But anyway, Bluetooth doesn't work. This, of course, doesn't have it now. And the Airport Extreme cards didn't work in OS 9. Other than that, the rest of the system should work. I haven't tested the sound. Sound's sometimes a problem with these systems. So, like this one, we'll go into detail about that in Season 3. But, yeah, we'll be running OS 9 on this at the end of the video. But now, let's start it up, and we'll just let it run. And right now I have the Pro speakers plugged in, but I'm going to also demonstrate the sound of the horrible speaker I have plugged into it now also. But for now, we'll just have the Pro speakers plugged in, and we'll do some stuff with it. So let's get going. And here we are in Leopard. Now, we'll first go over the specs real quick and show you everything that's in the system. We have a 1 gigahertz PowerPC G4, 1 gig of RAM. Now this, of course, can go up to 2 gigs of RAM, and I may do it one day, but this is what it came with originally and also what it came with when I rebuilt it. Even though I have the modules that could bump it up to 2, I just... It's kind of a sentimental thing right now, but I may end up upgrading it considering that I've been ripping parts out of it and putting new parts in it. So, you know, we'll continue making this thing grow. But anyway, we'll go into more info. Here's the specs. Now, we'll go over to, for instance, ATA. Let's see how big the hard drive is. I think it's a 320. Okay, it is a... I don't know what it is. I'm guessing, because this is partitioned twice, 232. It must be a 240 gigabyte hard drive. I'm not really sure how big this thing is. But, you know, it says there's 232, so I guess it's a 240 gig hard drive. I wanted to say it was bigger than that. But anyway, so there's that. This is that gateway drive that was in it. If we go over to disk burning, you can see all the stuff that it supports burning. And then we can see the airport card and the fact that it now doesn't have Bluetooth. And all this stuff here. And what's plugged into it right now. And that's basically the specs of the system. So, I've got some things planned here. As we can see here, this thing came pre-installed. Like I said, this was a pre-installed eBay hard drive before I knew how to install OS X. This came pre-installed with a whole lot of stuff. And basically everything on here except for I think 1 game or 2 games that are on here. And my 10.4 Fox install. All this stuff is, let's close out System Profiler. All this stuff came pre-installed on the system, as we can see here. All that came with the system. So yeah, gray shady area there. I understand why he probably stopped selling this stuff, because this is a lot of cracked stuff, I think. I never reused this stuff. So yeah. I did install uTorrent to download Tiger back before the days where Macintosh Garden actually carried Tiger. But other than that, you know, all this stuff. And in fact, a lot of the games that I'm going to show you in Tiger, I got off of Macintosh Garden. And I'd recommend you guys go check out Macintosh Garden. Christian is a friend of mine. He owns and runs a website. Really great guy, nice guy to talk to. But anyway, so yeah, we'll go over everything. And believe it or not, this system, even though you're going to see it's not going to play it well, it can run YouTube. And honestly, online, the websites and stuff, it seems to load them pretty decently quick. And hopefully it's not going to do what it usually does to me and freeze up while I'm filming. So we'll see. But right now I think I have FPR8 on it, so this is the most recent 10.4 Fox. My Tiger install, I still have the original 10.4 Fox I put on it in 2015. I kept the Tiger install basically original. So let's first go to, we'll Google search YouTube. And this is all real time. We'll just let it load up slowly. There we go. As we can see, YouTube loaded up. We can load this thing into YouTube. Of course, will be slow and stuff, so I might speed up it loading everything, but this gives you a general idea how quick the system really is. For 1 gigahertz G4 with no L3 cache, it's semi-impressive what it can do. So we'll just let it load for a second here, and we'll let it do its thing. There we go. So yeah, the full YouTube website is slow, but it is trying to load. So let's do the fastest iMac G4 video. Maybe. And yes, it will be a slideshow, but we'll give you an idea that it does do it somewhat. And we'll also give you a baseline for the fastest iMac G4. Hello, I'm Greg Redfield of FK Mods, and welcome to episode 15 of season 2 of the PowerPC series, and welcome also to part 3 of the World's Fastest iMac G4 mini-series that has been in this series since last season. This is the first part of this season, and it's of course just a as we can see, this is a really big slideshow here, but continuation. Today we finally the audio's nice at least. Keyboard back from DOS-Dude1, aka Colin Mister. This is originally a 1.25 gigahertz iMac G4 board, and it has. So yeah, let's turn this microphone back around. So yeah, it gives you an idea. It plays the audio nicely at least, but it doesn't really play YouTube where it's watchable, but allowed me to test this power supply and see if it still worked. And this thing played YouTube all the way through the night with no issues. So that means the power supply does work. That's cool. So let's see here. Now this system, of course, is more suited for maybe the more of the mobile oriented versions of websites, but could still load the full websites, as we can see here. Okay, this is the mobile version, Classzilla-like mobile version, but this is Facebook. It loaded it fine. So that's cool. You know, here's low-end Mac, and I could load the full page, but I just really don't want to right now because it would take us forever to wait for it to load. But as we can see, it loads it quick. You know, we can just look around. It's cool. It works. You know, it makes, you can still use the internet. I actually do internet on this a lot. So now, let's go and show you some things about this system. When I first got it, it came with all this stuff. It came with a cracked version of CS3 on it. All that stuff. I actually use an official copy of CS4 on my PowerPCs. And I have an official copy of CS5 for my Intel Macs. I actually do own those. And I actually own a key for CS3, but it's for Windows. Yeah, but anyway. CS3 for Mac worked pretty decently on PowerPC. CS4 clogs the systems up. But, you know, this is the stuff that came with the system. It came with a lot of interesting things. It even came with the last version that worked of Firefox. And it came with Final Cut Pro on it. A lot of that wouldn't even run on this system, I don't think. I never tried it. It came with iMovie HD and all this other really interesting stuff. Office 08 and a lot of interesting stuff. And here I had, for instance, I Spy, one of my childhood games. I installed that on here. I got that from Goodwill. So that's on here. Got Sheep Shaver. I never could figure out how to get it to work. That's when I figured out I needed to install Tiger. And so I've got my College Tiger on here. But before we do all that, I'm going to turn the microphone back around again. And we're going to test, sorry about shaking this, but I can't get the microphone on. Here we go. We're going to test the internal speaker. Yeah, look forward to that. So we're going to unplug the Pro speakers and volume. Okay, so we're going to start this at about mid-level, and we're going to play a song. So I'm going to open up iTunes just to show you how bad this speaker really is. Now this is a Silent Partner song called Tractor Pull. This is the speaker at max volume. Okay, so that's the first 30 seconds of that song at max volume on that speaker. Now, I'm going to turn the volume down to about half and plug in the Pro speakers again. If I can figure out where it is. Okay, and let's play it again, starting from the beginning. Here we go. Ready? The Pro speakers at 50% volume. So let's flip this microphone back around. It gives you a general idea how bad that internal speaker really is. Sorry about this, by the way. Microphone's not cooperating with me. Come on. There we go. Okay. So basically you saw how Leopard performs on this system. you know, I haven't touched it a whole lot since college. This system I am setting up now to be a user, like all the rest of my Macs. And one day I do plan on doing a what each Mac does video, but that's far off into the future. But this is going to be a daily used Mac. In fact, I think it's going to end up being a game server for the PowerPC gaming lounge when it's all said and done. In fact, I'm probably going to overclock it since, well, there's not much else you can do with it. So it's probably going to be overclocked. Who knows? I might have Colin put a better CPU on it, just to so it will work better serving. But yeah, that's basically the system. That's how Leopard works. So now we're going to restart the system and go into my college Tiger install, which I installed from scratch, and I think it was the CD version of Tiger, and I set it up myself. So yeah, we'll let this boot up. And I used to name these by the operating system version and stuff. I stopped doing that around the time I got my G5. So yeah, that's how I used to name everything. Now I just name it by the actual name and stuff. But yeah, this is how I used to name everything. And like I said, this is the system that started it all, so I don't really want to touch the originality of it. So we'll let it boot into Tiger. You're going to notice something interesting when it boots up into Tiger. You'll notice it instantly. First off, the screen resolution's wrong. And second off, you've probably already noticed it. I had the Leopard wallpaper on it. Let's get the screen resolution fixed. Here we go. And here we have Tiger. Alright, I have the newest FPR8 10.4 on here, but since this still has the original college setup on it, I still have the original 10.4 I had on the system on it. And you can quickly see which version it is. It's like version 32 or something like that. So we'll let it load up. And we'll go over to About 10.4, see which version it is. Version 31.70. And we're on version 45 point whatever, the FPR8 version. Which is apparently 45.14, because when you open up an older version, it loads up the Welcome to 10.4 page. So yeah, it's a big difference. It even had the old Google logo and a whole lot of other things, although it does look similar. But yeah, it's still from you know, my college days. So we'll close that out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up as a tripod, and we're going to do a little classic gaming on here for the heck of it, to show you things that I did in college. So let's get going. Okay, so I have the microphone set up towards the speakers themselves, and we have everything on a tripod here. And we're going to play some OS9 classic games that I have from college. This stuff was on here, and this stuff's what I have on here now. And one that I really want to play, now these of course aren't all OS9 games. In fact, a lot of these were classic games. And for instance, I have one here, Titanic, which I also got that from a YouTube, I mean not YouTube, a Goodwill store. This was the same one of the games that JonTron played for Titanic. I love that video. I actually had this game before that video came out. And it plays on Classic and it plays it fine, but I don't know where the disc is and it needs the disc to play. But anyway, that's one that I wanted to show you guys, but I'm not going to spend the time trying to find it. So what we're going to do is play 2 games just for the heck of it. First off, let's start off with a real classic game, Oregon Trail. It's starting up classic. And here's the Oregon Trail.
Welcome to the Oregon Trail. You're about to begin a great adventure.
And it loaded up in this window. I don't know if there's actually a full screen to get it to go. It doesn't look it. But yeah, Oregon Trail. Well, just pick a name. Okay. Can't buy. Okay, yeah, right. And 3 pounds of food. And it still won't let us. Well, anyway, Oregon Trail.
You need to decide when to set off on the trail.
Let's start in August. And continue. And there we go. We're playing Oregon Trail. And we're probably already out of food. We are. We're out of food and everything. You know, I'll probably die of dysentery way before I ever get past the first. Well, that's a problem. Yeah, Oregon Trail. So we'll close out Oregon Trail. And I got this game from Macintosh Garden. Dope. So yeah, if you guys haven't checked out Christian's website, great place to get old abandonware for Macs. But anyway, so now we're going to play a classic-based game that, for some reason, I can't find on here. Where is it? Uh-oh. Where'd it go? See if the ISO file works. It might be in my applications. No? I swore I still had this on here. Maybe it's under one of these folders. Anyway, this is Return to Castle Wolfenstein, the OS 9 version. I didn't know there was an OS 10 version. I have it now. But I played the OS 9 version on here and it worked. But for some reason it looks like I might have uninstalled it. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to reinstall it really quick. Oh, here it is. Hey, there we go. So let's play it. I apparently don't have any autosaves. Here's all the settings I had on here. It actually doesn't play at high quality very well. But let's quickly play it. This is going to be hard with a single click button mouse. So just give you a general idea how it plays.
Come in. Well, Jack, have we heard anything?
Let's skip
Yes,
that.
sir. We've just received a coded transmission from Kessler, our contact.
I may have to set the volume, quality down a little bit because this has an MX4 in it. The 5200 Ultra could probably play this at high quality, but the MX4, it kind of chokes it out. We'll just see how bad it really is. Yeah, this is really laggy. Let's lower it down some. I don't remember which resolution I had it on. I think it was this one. See if that helps. It's a little better. It's still glitchy. It could probably go down a little further.
Ah, there you are.
Yeah. That gives you an idea. And playing things like this is what got me into trying to get Macs to play these games. Now, I grew up on Wolfenstein, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, and games like Doom and all that stuff on PC. So playing it on a Mac was really cool. And you know, this stuff, I was playing this in college on this system and had it set up this way. So that's pretty neat. So anyway, the last thing we're going to do with this is we're going to boot target disk mode so you guys can get a general neat experience with OS 9 on this system. Now, we're not going to really be using OS 9, and it's not going to work super great yet. I'll have to do a lot of playing around with it to get it to work properly, but you'll be able to see this running OS 9. So I'm going to start up my PowerBook and set it in target disk mode, so let's go. Okay, so we have the PowerBook connected via target disk mode, and as we can see here, if we look, we've got OS 9 right there. So that's cool. So the open firmware has loaded. So let's open up OS 9 and enter. And here we are in OS 9. It did not seem to load the graphics drivers. The acceleration is not working. Some MX4s I don't think are compatible with OS 9. This might be one of them. But as we can see here, it's working. I don't see why the MX4 shouldn't be working because it should be the same chip that's in the 800 17-inch that I showed you guys. I don't know why it doesn't seem to be working, but I've been told many times in the past, even Collins told me that it doesn't work, but I think there's a way to get it to work, and we'll try our best to get it to work in the future. But as we can see here, this is the system. This system is running OS 9, and it is working. And this shows you just how, you know, it works. It identifies it, but it doesn't seem to actually be working with it. So right now we're running in 256 color, and it's not super great, but it does work. It is running OS 9 off the iMac, and it's working, sorta. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of something that's pretty important to me and very important to this channel here. This basically started it all indirectly, and it's got a very personal spot in my heart. It's a very nice system for what it is. Of course, it's Frankenstein together. And you need to actually use an external monitor on an iMac, but it works, and this started it all. So anyway, don't forget, guys, although this, by the time I upload this, the giveaway probably will be over. If it's not, right now we have 8 subscribers to go before the PowerMac G5 giveaway is over. So if you live in the United States of America, click this link right up here. You have 8 subscribers to go to get in, and who knows, the giveaway might be over before this is even uploaded. And anyway, that's the end of this episode, and thank you guys for watching. This has been a Rutk Mods video.